This world keeps turning faster every day. Can't hardly see the light along the way. Then the digital download comes shining down. Best bit of peace this old soul has found. Makes real good sense of all the noise and haze. Guide my heart through these modern days.
Oh, it stopped.
Oops. Good afternoon, good morning, and good day, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download. We had some fun with Lyria this week, as you can say. What is the Digital Download? The longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on TuneIn Radio through LBGR, the world's #1 business talk, news, and strategy radio network. Today on the Digital Download, we're tackling the silent killer of AI initiatives, the data literacy gap. If 95% of AI projects are failing, the problem isn't technology, it's the fuel. We have entered but before we kick off the discussion, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. We are excusing Tracy today. But while we're doing this, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us? We strive to make the Digital Download an interactive experience, and audience participation, as you know, is highly encouraged. So, Tim, why don't you kick us off, please?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. Also, just to say that we're going to miss Tracy today. She always provides a spark and an inspiration.
But we have Adam back with us, and thank you, Tove, for underlining this. Adam.
Thank you, Tove. Yes, I'm delighted to be here. I'm co-founder of DLA Ignite and Tim's business partner. Back from a couple of weeks off as I had a bit of a health issue, but I'm on the mend now and delighted to be here because this is, I guess, a burning topic for every organization at the moment, isn't it? You know, we see these shocking statistics about the number or the percentage of AI projects that fail. I think discussing why they fail is a really important conversation to have.
And there are many aspects of this and many angles that hopefully we'll be in a position to discuss in the next 45-50 minutes. All right, so today we're discussing how as a team, we're discussing as a team, of course, how the most important AI skills in 2026 isn't about coding. It's knowing how you build and maintain your ecosystem of reference, and obviously how, as contributors and employees, we actually work with AI, and we'll discuss a little bit about this. Okay, so I've got a financial question to start with, and I'll probably start with the following. How do we organize business context, professional identity, and voice to create a single version of the truth for digital teammates? Who wants to take that?
Well, I can certainly wade in on that. So I think the issue, certainly the issue that we see when we talk to organizations, is that AI has been lauded as some sort of savior for business processes. So organizations are told they can...
Just like the internet was.
Just like the internet was, yeah. So organizations are told that they can save 10, 15, 20, 25% of their time by deploying AI agents or AI tools to provide shortcuts for them. And that's a very compelling story to be told, and something that we all of us kind of feel, well, AI can help me with that. I think that the thing that is overlooked, which is the point of that comment further to your question, Bertrand, the point is that when everybody has, let's assume everybody uses the same AI tool, I mean, there are several out there, but let's assume everybody uses the same one. Then everybody has the same language, same knowledge, the same infrastructure that is providing those shortcuts and those answers that they're looking for. And the challenge that we face is that in a world where we now have a turnkey solution to producing content, producing answers, producing RFPs, producing responses, all of those are the same. And in that world where everything is commoditized, it becomes a race to the bottom in terms of price. Why would I buy from Bertrand when Tim is offering what appears to be exactly the same thing for 20% less? Well, I'll obviously buy from Tim. And the problem is that way hell lies. And I think that, the challenge for every organization is to understand how they can empower their AI instance to provide them with something which is in their voice, reflects the people, reflects the brand values of the organization, and reflects what's special about that organization, which is the very reason customers buy from them in the first place. So creating that infrastructure and creating that knowledge base for AI is the first step if you don't want to have your prices and profit margins hacked to pieces.
The thing that I've seen, I was talking to an organization this week that they've bought an AI tool, and ultimately what the AI tool enables them to do what they've always been doing in terms of cold outreach, faster.
And blander.
And probably, well, yes, and probably blunder. There's clearly that the tool is selling itself on the basis that you can see intent of buying. So what you're able to do is, rather than having to ring up somebody and they tell you to go away, what you're going to do is you're going to ring them up and they go, "Oh wow, I didn't know that you I didn't know you. How did you know? Yes, actually, we're just about to buy something." So of course, and with AI and using any tool probably gets you 10% increase in what you were doing before, but they're not doing it any differently. It's the same old, I was writing an article the other day. I started cold calling in the 1980s, and people are still cold calling. And so here we have, people that are using 1980 technology, but they're adding AI to it. Yes, they'll do. Yes, they'll get a response from it, but it's not fundamentally changing what they're doing. When we saw that the internet was introduced, I remember when the dot-com boom happened, and all people were doing were putting web e-commerce sites on their company. It wasn't actually changing the company at all. I remember when Specialized Bikes, being a Specialized bike owner, they actually announced that they were going through a whole process re-engineering. They saw that the internet as an opportunity to actually re-engineer their business from the outside in. And that's the things that we need to be seeing. I'm actually amazed that the KPMGs and the PwCs and the Accentures aren't already shouting that from the rooftops, because that's kind of their comfort zone.
Well, I think the other thing is, further to what you said there, Tim, about it provides you with intent. I think intent is a very difficult thing to divine within your audience. For years we've had marketing MQLs that have said this person is a hot prospect at the moment because they have entered a webinar. And
I'll go to the HubSpot website and download a paper, and within 30 minutes I've got a phone call saying, "Yeah, you're going to buy."
Exactly, and the answer is no. And the reason it's no is because it's either a resource that you want, or you are learning about that particular environment or that product or that opportunity prior to even thinking whether or not this can add value to your business. So I think that the thing is that yes, if you come to attend one of my webinars, you have more intent to buy than somebody that hasn't come to one of my webinars. But that doesn't mean you're going to be picking up the phone next week and ordering for me. What it means is that you could be very early on in the process, or you might even be learning a little bit about that environment to decide that environment is not something that you want to buy. And I think that like with salespeople's pipelines and MQLs and SQLs and website visitors and impressions of your content, I think often we are deluded in terms of how important we think these things are. You know, I got 1 million views of my content this week, and the phone rung. Well, no. Okay, so what does that tell you? That means that people may have noticed it, or they may not. They may have consumed it, or they may not. And I think a lot of this stuff is us hoping for a result, isn't it?
So, Bertrand, if prompts are processes, but context is fuel, how do we actually build a context library without it becoming a disorganized data dump?
That's what a great question. But before I answer that question, a few points that I'd like to make. I think you talked. I think, Adam, you talked about the easy button, right? So the fact that, you know, why don't I use AI to basically gain some, you know, maybe 10, 15, 20% of my time, be more efficient, etc. I think one of the things that is, and that's probably the topic of the day, a little bit underestimated, is what it takes to your resources, your colleagues, to really understand how AI works, so that they can be more critical with respect to the outcome. And that works whether you're in sales or you are in marketing. You know, if you go for the easy button, you're taking risk, actually. You know, the fact that we are human and that we you know, base our decisions, or should be basing our decisions on facts, has all of a sudden quite changed with the rise of AI usage almost everywhere. So that when it comes to you know, what you have to sell, your differentiators, what makes you different, I would say even your culture as an organization, are things that you know, you need to somehow monitor into any of your AI outputs or outcomes. And this is something that, I mean, we have statistics on this, but we know that there is quite a lack of understanding across the board how you use this stuff. And that generates, as you said, you know, if you're not careful, maybe your ICP definition, it does not really reflect what the reality is in the field, because you made up your mind on some sort of deep search analysis, and didn't really take that from give it a reality check, I would say, and that is a big challenge. So I think everything you do when it comes to you know, things that you would like to automate, and the most complex one being content generation, at least personalized content generation, meaning this is your voice. This is your voice in your company culture. Then this takes a little bit of homework, basically, to make sure that what you input is actually relevant, that it is risk-free, and there are many risks, you know, whether it's legal or cyber, and that you can actually leverage all of these new technologies with it. I mean, being efficient and really helpful, I would say. So we've worked on that, of course, to try to understand, you know, how we can ground our AI teammates so that they are reflecting this culture. And we are therefore limiting the risk of, you know, getting exposed to stuff that we would have been exposed to without this kind of, you know, safety net, you could say, around what your AI is going to generate, at the same time as creating differentiation with your competition, because that's what we want, not to forget, of course.
Well, I think that the work that particularly you, Bertrand, have been doing around this is really crucial in terms of creating a structure for how this is implemented within organizations. Because I think that one of the challenges is that every organization, certainly every organization that I've spoken to, wants to deploy AI. They don't know how they're going to deploy AI. They don't really know what the output from that is going to be. They don't know how to create these ring fences around it. And they're not sure about what are the dependencies that they have, the raw materials that they have, and which things do they need to create or manufacture in order to upskill the AI to do the things that they hope it will be able to do. And I think that, part of the reason that we see such a massive failure rate of AI projects is that that groundwork is not done. So organizations either deploy AI, switch it on and go, okay, write me a blog or do some research on this, or whatever it may be that they're asking it to do. And the stuff that comes back is mediocre. It's better than nothing, but it isn't great. So low performers look at that and they go, well, that's great. I haven't had to do any work and I've got the answer that I need. And they share that answer, which reduces the perceived value of the organization and its thinking. Or they're high performers and they look at it and they go, I'm not sharing that because that's rubbish. And then they have to go away and do it themselves. So you've either got high performers that are not using the AI because the AI isn't fit for purpose in their eyes, and low performers who are propagating far more information out into the marketplace, which is reducing the value of the organization. And, when we see that the MIT research that said that 95% of AI implementations fail, it's exactly for that reason, isn't it? It's because what's being churned out by it is not fit for purpose. And therein lies the issue. The very thing that we are trying to do, which is differentiate ourselves and make ourselves look more attractive than our competitors in the marketplace, is exactly what this is failing to do, and in fact, compounding the problem of.
We have Greg saying hi.
Hi, Greg.
Well, thanks for that, Adam. Yes, there's something that for sure we see over and over again, because in the meantime, yes, well, as you said, a number of projects are failing, and there might be governance issues around this, from the start. But then one of the things that keeps going, while this is not happening into organizations, are people using their own AI assistant. And when you actually have a new teammate on board, it actually comes with a complete digital workforce with it, alongside. Is that workforce completely secured? How do we deal with that from a just rules of engagement perspective? That is also something that probably needs to be at least underlined and obviously brought to the table when from day one in this type of projects.
Yeah, well, I think Greg's last comment, mediocre prompt equals mediocre return. I think that yes, that is partly true. However, and I think that this is the big issue. This is way beyond prompts these days. You can write a brilliant prompt, which is an instruction for the AI to do a particular task. The issue is, if the AI doesn't know what you want it to do, it knows what the world is expecting because it's sourced from every single person that's using it. If you haven't upskilled it with that context, which is unique to you as a person and you as a business, it doesn't matter how good the prompt is. It's like taking an incredibly intelligent intern that knows nothing about your business or your industry and then giving them very clear instructions of what you expect them to do. the very insights that you're hoping to use to give you that differentiation and that profit margin are going to be absent from the output. So it's that baseline, that upskilling and creation and learning process for the AI that's the crucial part, isn't it?
Yeah, I went to see Tim Harford, the economist, last night at Richmond, and he was talking about AI as part of that. And he said that he went to ChatGPT and he just put in the prompt that said, by the way, the blind date that you organised for me didn't go very well, because when I got there, it wasn't a girl, it was an octopus. And ChatGPT responded and said, well, I'm really sorry about that, but here's a towel. And he said that in some cases, when you go to ChatGPT, what it understands is that actually what we're doing is improv.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually responds. And there's I had a lady come on my podcast, and she's come up with this strategy methodology, which she calls SOAP. And everything that the AI basically came up with had a soap pun in it. So you know, that what it's trying to do is actually see that it's improv, but by doing that, it doesn't necessarily know the context when to do that, and when you actually ask it a question that what you're doing is that you're talking about it something for real. So it will give you the answer that you want, and it won't go away and make something up, because even though we may say it's hallucinating, because it's not giving us what we want, it may be because it's thinking that what we're doing is this is a joke, and actually what we want is this back and forwards laughter thing. So you know, we do need to be very careful about the context that we're using within within AI.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant response as well. Yeah.
So an organization is thinking about implementing AI to help them achieve efficiency or upskill people or create a greater volume of outreach, or whatever their objective may be. So, I mean, I know the snappy catch answer is phone Bertrand or Tim. But what things does an organization need to think about before they switch this thing on and empower the people to use it? What are the steps that need to be put in place?
Well, it was interesting. Bertrand shared a link just before the show, which people may not know. The UK is no longer part of Europe, but in Europe, what they've done is they've actually passed a law that everybody has to be trained on AI. Is that right, Bertrand?
Yes, it is right. It's part of the AI Act, and the whole idea is, you know, as we said earlier in our discussion, is really to make sure that people understand, you know, what this tool is all about, and the fact that this is no longer that you're not, you know, it's not because you have an answer from an AI that you should take this as facts or take this as granted. In other words, because it is just let's say a statistical answer. And I was attending also a very interesting meeting this week on AI in defense, and obviously, as you can imagine, you know, when it comes to defense and, you know, bombing and stuff like that, you'd better be sure of what the target is. So there's a lot of research, and you know, I'm sure that people who are actively following the AI topic know about this. But you know, one of the key, I would say, one of the main drivers right now in terms of research is about certainty, or you could say confidence level. So that this answer, you know, I am confident that this answer is 92% okay, and you can proceed. So that's why we keep hearing about human in the loops, is because we are not very sure about this confidence level. So that's what you know, the AI Act is underlining is you need to make sure that your staff understands that they are not dealing with something that presents facts, but is presenting interpretations of facts. So that you keep, nothing. When you think about it, if you get your emails generated consistently to your customers as or pre-drafted, etc., but say we jump on that, and you don't even read, well, or you read very quickly the answer. Nothing prevents the answer to a specific mail to a customer to include a side letter or side letter elements. So we are on to a general topic that beyond generating content for social platforms, etc. But think about social platforms as well. You could be relaying stuff that are absolutely that's a word that starts with a B, but that are non-trustable. Therefore, exposing yourself, exposing your organization, and obviously we want to have security checks before we do that. That's what I'm keeping. I like the idea of having a safety net on everything that you get generated for you.
And I think, going back to Adam's question, is what do you do? I think it's so important, isn't it, to actually understand that when you generate something from AI, that it's not necessarily the truth.
That's a good starting point.
And just like I get lots of emails saying that they want to give me $3 million. It isn't necessarily the case that they do.
Yeah. So how? I mean, I think that one of the challenges is that the three of us and most of the people that are watching this may well be very confident in their knowledge and their ability. So, if you read something and you know that it isn't right, you will not send it because you are experienced enough and knowledgeable enough to know that thing that is created is not right. So if you're not you, if you are somebody that is relatively new to an industry, or you're new to an organization and still finding your feet, how do you develop the bravery to be able to say, this thing that has been put in front of me, I don't think this is correct? Or how do you spot something that isn't correct?
Well, this is where grounding stuff is important. So, and I'll talk specifically maybe for our audience who operates in disruptive markets. So, or with selling a disruptive service or service or solution. This is probably where you've got to get into understanding what is the culture, what are your beliefs, and documenting these so that your agents, your assistants are grounded into something that potentially reduces the scope of their answers to something that is more in line with what you think. So if you don't do that, then if you are into a disruptive market, what's going to happen is if you are selling something disruptive in your industry, your AI will systematically come back to something that is average. So your differentiation gets absolutely unnoticed. So you've got to. That's why I think you've got to document the things that, as an organization, you are pushing to the market, and obviously always have someone in the loop, and potentially even also do the same for yourself. Because I think this is an equation that we, for those who are taking, content to outside to on social media or on, even on marketing campaigns. there's always this balance that I think should be considered between, what is it that makes you different as an organization, and what is it that makes you different as an individual.
But I guess how do organizations structure that? Now, obviously, we know the answer to this, but how do organizations structure that? Because you, Bertrand, have worked with organizations, and you've said to them, do you know who your ICP is? And they go, yeah, absolutely. And you say, okay, show me the document. And they say, we haven't got a document.
It's in the head.
Yeah.
Well, it probably depends on the size, but of the organization.
There are lots of different elements here, aren't there, where you speak to people within the organization and they go, yeah, I absolutely know what my organization stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, knowing what your organization stands for, and you having the raw materials to be able to load into your AI, so it knows what those are poles apart, aren't they? So a lot of that pre-work, is around consulting and brainstorming and listening and scribing what people say, so you can gather that great cloud of unstructured data and say, okay, here's a summary of what we stand for. Here's a summary for what our values are. Here's a summary for who we're looking to talk to. Here's a summary for what our bandwidth is, the area of the market that we operate in, our value prop, all of these different elements. So what typically are the big holes in this? Because we've got a brand guidelines document from our agency, and we've got a website full of content. Oh, well, we're good to go then, aren't we? Well, actually, no, you're not. You're a million miles.
No, you're not. I think, going back to sanity check, if you believe you as a marketing organization know very well your ICP, I mean, in detail.
But can I? So I want to share this with the audience. So we're working with an organization where, first and foremost, Bertrand said, "Do you have the ICP?" And they said yes. And they said, "Send me the document." And they said, "No, it's in our heads." So he then took the ICP document, and it would say a page of A4. Just holding up a pad so people look, because in America some people don't. So it was a page of A4, right? So Bertrand says, it's not really long enough. So he runs a Zoom call with them, and takes the AI out of that, and he creates something which is 17 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about defining an your ideal customer persona, well, it's terms of magnitude between it's in my head to it's a page of A4 to it's 17 pages of A4. And so I just wanted to set that so that the people out there understand, that's the size of magnitude that you can use. And if you think about how you should be defining your ethics and your purpose, and making sure that you're going to market in the way that you want. Sorry, Bertrand, I butted in. I thought I just said that.
No, but that's perfectly right. And and I think the point is that even though, even then you've done this, you still have room for improvement. So it just gives a size. Talking about data literacy, it gives you an idea of what is required to come any closer to what the reality and what your true audience is. But that is where I think there's in that area, there's a lot to get from AI. If you raise the right questions in the right audience, and there's all of this knowledge which all of a sudden is shared. Is basically a brand dump of, especially if you do that with scale companies where you do have the founders and people who fully understand where they come from and where they are going. It's obviously very high value, and if you can capture that, then obviously you can carefully use AI tools to get what is usually quite difficult to get, which is a level 0 or a level 1 of your ICP definition, and that is a starting point. Then we can work, refine this, share it, discuss it, validate it. And what I think is always interesting is to get the field validation, because we know we know, the three of us, that the larger the organization, the weakest the link to the field is when it comes to defining targets, for instance. So
I've got a question here. So there is at one end of the spectrum, there is I work within an organization. I've signed up for ChatGPT. I just put some smart prompts into it, and it gives me stuff that I just cut and paste into my outbound stuff, whether that's an email or a script for a call or an introductory letter or a post on social. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that I never get my AI to market, because I spend all of my time doing consulting projects in order to get better and better briefs for AI. Obviously, there's a sweet spot in the middle. To a certain extent, there's an element of this shoot, aim, fire kind of thing, where you have to dip your toe in the water. However, there is, and I think that often what's not spoken about is there is a bit at the start where it is catastrophically bad to just say to people, here's access to the tool, away you go and have some fun, because you can have decades of brand value eroded almost instantaneously by a bunch of people posting garbage, which at one end is legally and ethically bankrupt stuff that causes real visceral damage to the organization, and at the other end it teaches the people that are consuming content from the organization that there's no point in consuming content from the organization. So marketing has spent 20 years building an audience, and the audience is switched off in a matter of days because you just share loads of rubbish with them. So what does an implementation runway look like in your estimation? What things do we need to put in place, and how long does it take to put those things in place before we can safely and confidently switch this on and get people to use it?
Yeah, well, I think it's you know what, it goes faster and faster, and whatever we say here will be obsolete tomorrow. So maybe before tomorrow, because as a matter of fact, access to technology is just simpler and simpler. The barrier of entry is just going down every single day, which is actually very good news, because it means that the difference doesn't lie into this part of the story. It is more about how you proceed. So, in other words, your methodology. The good news about methodology is that it's tool independent, and for those who have been in IT, we like things that are independent. We love independent layers. So having a framework that you can use and reuse regardless of the technology is, I think, priority number one. As part of that framework, you also need to have governance things set up so that you don't do you prevent. You prevent yourself from getting into the major risks. Now, is this long? Not necessarily. We have I think 3 months into, so it's probably in the magnitude of a quarter that together with that you're going to run that framework and set up the fine-tune the tools and the knowledge that you need to get to put together to ground your agents, your assistants, and your agents, and that's it. And then maybe another. It's a little bit. I see this a little bit like an HR onboarding, to be honest. So you've got when you onboard someone, you've got an onboarding process. which is probably the quarter framework we were talking about. It can be less. It all depends on access to data and how much your content is actually rich. So and then just make sure that you've got regular monitoring of the outcomes, so that over time you're improving. And I think that's also the point. That is sometimes overlooked, which is. This is not a one shot. It is not a one-time activity. Yes, it is a one-time activity to get started, but then you've got to make reviews, and so that you can improve over time. And to be honest, there's also something that is part of that story, is that your positioning is changing. It is changing over time. It's changing. If you're a very agile organization, it can change. Quarterly.
Well,
So all of that needs to be taken into account as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that idea of being agile and responding to changes as they happen is absolutely crucial, because, Tim spoke about large consulting firms helping organizations do this, and in many instances this is like a multi-year project for them, which seems to me to be ludicrous. However, the flip side of that coin is, well, we're just going to press the start button and hope for the best, which is equally catastrophic. So, there is a window of opportunity, isn't there, of doing your kind of suitable diligence ahead of launching this. But equally, there's a time precedent. You have to act, and you have to act now, because if you talk about this as being an AI transformation within the organization, well, actually, if you're not careful, you're going to miss the boat.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think any roadmap that goes beyond 12 months, I think you have a roadmap for the next 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And then you have opportunities that may actually come first, that may seen as being in 12 months from now, but actually, or maybe further away, and all of a sudden you can make it happen much faster, because you've a new piece of technology, you've got something new that comes up.
Yeah.
So it needs you need to have a framework so that you know where you're going, but you also need to bring agility into the loop, because otherwise you may miss the boat, as you said.
So here's a question that will probably be bothering a lot, particularly smaller organizations. There's a lot of great AI tools out there. How do you decide which AI platform to be on? Now, we're a Google house, and I love the fact that we're a Google house, because Gemini is really good, and Notebook LM is really good, and Google Studio is really good. So all of these things, and they all talk to each other. And I'm sure that every AI platform has similar kind of things. So how do you make a decision about which one is the one to back, do you think?
I think you just need to test it. I think you should have a few. Well, the way I look at this is more from a. How can I say that? There's a bit of strategy into this.
So what's the strategy?
There's a bit of a long time view. But so here is the way I look at this, and probably I'm as I said, what I'm saying will be obsolete tonight. But I think there are 2 types of organizations, that 2 types of suppliers, let's put it this way. There are suppliers who are building enterprise software around AI, just like, it's a little bit like in the automotive industry, right? So you've got automotive manufacturers who have built cars who are building cars around a computer. And you have automotive manufacturers who are building AI into their cars. and you've got to make up your mind which one you want to go for a long ride with. Do you want to do 2,000 kilometers in a car built around a computer, or do you want to go for a really well-known car manufacturer for long runs who happens to have AI built into their cars? I've gone for the second option, because I believe that when you need to go to growth an enterprise type of infrastructure, you'll go for people who understand what enterprise software is.
Yeah. It's an interesting.
Sorry.
No.
It's don't want to, we see. Okay.
It's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? Because the car analogy that you said, it's like I remember Tim and I went on a Tesla day a few years ago, which was
Probably 10 years ago.
yeah. And the thing that was really interesting about that was one of the comments that the guy made was that if you buy a Tesla, the day you pick it up will be the worst the car ever is, and it will just keep getting better as they update it, which obviously is it's the opposite of a traditional petrol engine car. But I do think that in some ways, we're in a situation where a lot of these large tech companies that are producing enterprise level software they're creating a solution looking for a problem, and they're using AI agents at an enterprise level to provide chatbots and help centers and stuff like that, which may be really valuable things, but they're not necessarily providing individuals within the organization a tool to amplify their voice, which is felt has been like the key thing for enterprise sales being successful, has been taking the unique personality of each of the people and helping them take that to market.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, what happens so I think there's plenty of stuff, and I'm again, that may be, that's only a personal interpretation of this, but when you look at, if we now we talk about AI within the enterprise, and we're now looking, for instance, into supply chain predictive maintenance and stuff like that, there is zero chance that the big players will let any AI niche player, or who are actually monsters, get into their business, and they will acquire. They will. There will be integrations, acquisitions, etc. It's going to be vertically integrated. That's my view.
Yeah.
Because there is no way, someone like Salesforce, SAP, or any of these big players, let someone get into their processes. And remember, they own the data.
So Tracy's
going back to our comment today, Tracy is participating. Hi, Tracy.
Tracy's last comment. That is the comment of the day.
Great. Thank you, Tracy, for participating.
Yeah.
All right. I think. Okay.
We've got 4 minutes to go.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Who wants to Tim, do you want to say
what are the red flags that a digital teammate is operating on fuzzy data rather than rich business context?
Irrelevant output, average, something you already know. It says something you already know. Something everybody says.
But if we take that and think about all of the things that we've talked about in this show in terms of as a company, we now believe that we have a purpose. We believe that there should be ethics, and it's not just brand guidelines written by our marketing agency. It's about how we show up on social media and how we're using AI as a way of showing up. That has can have a massive impact, can't it? Not just the fact that we're saying, not just what we're throwing out is slop, but the fact is that we may be saying something which is going to get us taken out from as a, saying something that we shouldn't be saying.
Yeah, we need, as Craig said, I think earlier in the chat. Let me just retrieve this. That's my comment of the day. Coming from Greg, a great opportunity to teach critical thinking and the Socratic process, not how to use AI. Interesting. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you.
May I just
Thanks,
remind
Greg, Tracy,
may I just remember, and Adam, could you just go I'm so sorry. Let me just put myself here. Maybe that's gonna. Yes.
It's better the other way around, frankly, Bertrand.
Okay, so gentlemen, thank you very much. If you want to know more about the show, this is the QR code you should be scanning, or just visiting us at digitaldownload.live/newsletter. With that, to our audience, thank you very much, and see you next week.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.